Okay, so, what am I supposed to talk about?
I know the book, I know the book, from the pain, I just wanna.
One day after we were finished longboarding, hanging out, Jonah, Hayden, and I went to Hayden's house and decided we wanted to go on a really cool senior trip. So we started looking at locations and things like that we should look into, and we decided on Big Bend. So we decided to stay in the Chisos Mountain Basin and kind of rough it. Before we actually went on the trip, we started getting tangible stuff together. And we started with the tent. We set it up in Hayden's backyard, and we only took like 3 tries to get it done.
I mean, it did take us a long time to do it.
Hey, shut up. So we spent the night at Hayden's right before we left, and we woke up at about 4 o'clock so that we could be showered and ready to go by 4:30.
Yeah, it was about 5:30.
About 5:30 is when we actually left Hayden's house and started driving to Big Bend. Jonah slept in stepbrother's room. Hayden slept in his room. Brad and I cuddled on the couch in the living room. I mean, slept separately in the living room. What a night. We get on the road, on the highway and whatnot, and start driving, and I mean, there was like literally nothing, like almost the entire time, except for gas stations.
And hotels.
And hotels, yeah. There's a million hotels in Abilene. Hayden didn't want to get the gas level in the truck below 3/4 of a tank, and so we stopped about a million times to get gas. One of the times, we found this super cool dog. I wanted him to be my best friend, and I kind of wanted to take him camping, but I got a little bit of pushback from the other guys. I'm not bitter about it. After driving for about 9 hours straight, I don't mean like without stops, I literally mean like in a straight line all the way there. We're about an hour outside the park, and we stopped at the last gas station, fill up before we head down finally a different road. We turn onto the road, and we're driving for about 30 minutes till we get to the entrance, and over the horizon we see like this tiny little mountain, and we just like freaked out because we were so excited that there was finally something that wasn't flat ground. So after we saw the small mountain that we all freaked out about, we kind of like started driving through these windy roads and seeing more and more things, and realizing how like lame the first mountain was, because they just kept getting better and better. And we right before we turned into the Chisos Mountain Basin campground, we thought the mountains were like super cool and perfect for a framing for a picture. And so we pulled over and got out, and Hayden and I started taking pictures with our DSLRs. I mean, it still only got better from there. We got back in the car and started driving into the basin. And when you drive into the basin, you have to kind of wind in and out of the mountains, because it's literally like a circle of mountains and then a campground in the center. So we're like winding through to get there, and it was just beautiful. When we got to the campground, we actually knew somebody there, and my mom had a friend named Deb Manley. Thanks, Deb. She was actually like the camp hostess, and so we get there and we start checking in and whatnot, and fill out our paperwork for how many nights we're gonna stay, and we put our money in the envelope. Somebody doesn't know how to do math. Not gonna say who, Hayden. somebody decided that we should pay for 5 nights when we should have only paid for 4. I mean, it was only like $14 extra.
Yeah.
But you know, every penny counts. Okay. So we drive around the little campground and try and pick the best campsite. We picked one right kind of dead center, and we start setting up our tent, and that's where it went wrong. That's when we made our first mistake.
I think it was like a little bit of foreshadowing, actually.
Yeah, it was like, that's accurate. It was foreshadowing to our demise at the end of the trip. We had time to go on an evening hike before the sunset, and so we asked Deb what trails she suggested. She told us about the window trail. So we walked down the hill and go on the window trail, and we took so many pictures and videos while we were walking along because I think we were just so excited about it. I mean, if I'm being honest, it was kind of the lamest trail. Like, it wasn't lame, it was cool, but
it was just pretty straightforward.
It paled in comparison to some of the other ones that we ended up doing while we were there. We're going down the window trail, and Brad and I decided we wanted to climb one of the mountains, and so we start walking up, and Hayden and Jonah were kind of following behind us, but
we were very hesitant.
They're a little hesitant because I think Jonah and Hayden are smarter than Brad and I are sometimes. After the window hike, we came back to camp and made our first meal, which was hot dogs. We started off the week on a good note, and then we hit the sack so we could get up early the next day and start our first full day. After we ate breakfast, we decided to go on the South Rim trail. As we were walking up the trail, it kind of got, harder and harder, as they do. Some of us struggled with the altitude. Hayden didn't handle altitude well. Jonah didn't handle altitude well. Brad and I, we were pretty good with altitude, actually. We handled it really well. About a third of the way done the South Rim Trail, right? About a third of the way done. And we noticed there's a fork in the trail. One of the paths leads up to the peak of, it was like the highest elevation that you could get to via a pre-made trail. And so we decided to go up there and take some pictures up there and eat lunch. We decided we should just come right back down to camp afterwards. And so we did the hike again, but backwards. And we get to camp and we decided we could go to Santa Ana Canyon. It's probably the most picturesque location in the park. Probably the most photographed location in the park. We drive there along the Ross Maxwell Scenic Drive, which was gorgeous. Along the drive there were just, they're kind of mountain ranges and like just cool like hills and things like that.
Really big bends.
On both sides, yeah. There were big bends everywhere. It was really something. So yeah, we drive along the Ross Maxwell Scenic Drive and get to the canyon, and decide we want to go for a little bit of a swim. It's kind of underwhelming that you can't see like that far into the water. If you put your hand directly under the surface, it disappears and you can't see it. So we start like walking in the water, and the water level only comes up to like our shins until you get to like the center of the canyon, in which case the water level technically doesn't rise, but at that point the water is at your hips because from your knees down has sunken into mud, and it's disgusting but oddly satisfying. Brad decides it's a good idea to swim over to the other side of the canyon where there's like a little section of I guess rapids. They're like really shallow, like the water was honestly only about like that deep. Brad decided it was going to be a good idea to try and float down that without a tube or anything. And so he kind of goes for it and goes in belly down and like swims through it. And I was like, wow, that looks like fun. I'm going to give it a go.
You went belly up, right?
And I went belly up. I sat and tried to go down that way. And I hit my butt on every single rock in between where I was and where Brad was. Like I guarantee I hit my butt on every single rock. It was extremely painful. It wasn't worth it. Brad thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Jonah thought it was funny. I don't know if Hayden even saw. The only way back was to get out of the water and walk on this little like, I guess, island that was basically just a bunch of really sharp rocks. We didn't have shoes on, and so we like cut up our feet on that. It was terrible. It was bad. But it was beautiful, and so it was okay. After we left the Santa Elena Canyon, we decided that the canyon was fun and we wanted to go to another one. After we got back and we made, I think, burgers that night, we hit the sack and woke up the next day ready to go to the Bequeas Canyon on the east side of the park. And so we drive there. It took about an hour as well to drive there. It wasn't a scenic drive, it was quite boring actually. Anyway, so we get to the Bequeas Canyon and we turn a corner and kind of hear this like voice. It's kind of jamming out, singing some Hispanic tunes. He stopped singing when he saw us and kind of asked us if we wanted to buy any of his like little trinket things that he made. And we were like, no, we're good, thanks. He was like, oh, okay. And then he kind of like disappeared behind a tree and we didn't see him for a while. We just went to the river and swam for like,
it was like
5 hours. Yeah, we were there for a long time. And we kind of saw him along the bay the entire time we were there, and he would like disappear for a while and then come back and disappear again. We saw him pulling a boat at one point. I'm about 100% sure that his name was Jesus, was an illegal immigrant trying to sell trinkets in the park. He was unsuccessful. So yeah, after we swam for about 5 hours, my hands were sufficiently pruny, and we headed back to camp. So we got back to camp after going to the Bequeas Canyon and got some extra water and supplies and things so that we could drive up towards the north of the camp and do an auto trail. There's only, I think, 2 auto trails in the entire park, and this one looked fun. And so we went to go do it, and it was a long drive, a bunch of nothingness. We finally get there, and it was beautiful.
It was not.
And
it was not beautiful.
It was super cool.
William's lying.
I'm not. It was the best.
The trip was actually just a very flat, level gravel path.
We don't know that because you guys didn't want to finish it.
We got about 7 minutes in and turned around.
It was supposed to take like 40 minutes. It was like 7 miles long. You're supposed to like drive slow, and we got like 7 minutes in, and they were like, "William, no, this is stupid. We're not gonna do this anymore. We're gonna go back to camp. This was a terrible idea on your part," which is wrong because Hayden and I planned it together. I think it's important that all you viewers out there know that. It was not my fault, and that it could have been cool, but Hayden didn't want to do it because he was worried about scratching up the truck. And so we turned around and went back to camp and didn't finish the auto trail.
Luckily.
No, not luckily. It was beautiful. We left the auto trail and went back to camp. Biggest regret of the trip was not finishing the auto trail. We got back, we ate dinner a little early, and went to bed a little early so that we could wake up at 4 or 5 a.m. to take pictures of the stars, because Big Bend has some of the lowest light pollution in the state,
Yeah.
right? Second lowest in the entire United States. And so we thought it'd be fun to take pictures of the night sky. And so we woke up to do so, and it proved difficult. It's hard to focus on the stars. Hayden was pretty good at it. I didn't have very much luck. Hayden has one good picture. Insert picture now. So yeah, we did that night, and then we went to bed and woke up the next day to do our last trail before we packed up that night and went home in the morning. So the last trail that we did, the final full day that we were there, was called the Lost Mine Trail. And we get there and we pull into a parking space so that we can get out and do the hike. And as we pull into the parking space, Brad sees this black bear, and he's like freaking out, so excited because Brad loves bears. And he's like, "Guys, get your cameras, get your cameras, get your cameras!" So we got our cameras, and he like got out of the car and decided he wanted to get a closer look at the bear, and so he went over with his phone, and he was super excited about it. It was cool. It was really cool. It walked up the trail that we were about to do, but we weren't going to let that stop us, and so we got our bags on and whatnot, and proceeded to walk up the trail. And as we're walking up the trail, another family came down and reassured us that they saw the bear, but it crossed the street and left the trail, so we weren't in any danger. It was good. So we're walking up the trail, and I think we were hiking for about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And we get to a stopping point. There's a couple of benches that were up there, and there was a good viewing area, and so we stopped to take some pictures. And Brad and I kind of looked to our right and noticed that there was a super cool, easy to climb mountain over there, and so we wanted to do it. Brad kind of gets on his way and starts walking in that direction, and Will, come with me. Yeah, dude, let's do it. This will be fun. I'll bring my camera. But it gets a little too difficult to do without hands because you had to hold on to some stuff, and so I left my camera on top of the ridge in between the mountain and the trail. So Brad and I start walking on the trail, and Hayden and Jonah decide they think it's a bad idea, and so they start yelling at me not to do it. And William, it's dangerous. You could die. People die at this park. Whatever. And Hayden's like, William, do not do this. Do not do it. And I say, fine, I won't, unless there's a trail. And then I went on my way because there's totally a trail.
No, not a trail.
Yes, there was. There was a trail. There was a trail that led all the way to the mountain.
To the what of the mountain?
To the kind of the base of the mountain.
Oh, so not all the way up the mountain.
Not all the way up the mountain, but from the end of the trail to the peak of the mountain, there was an open area of kind of like rocks that you could climb up easily. So Brad and I climbed up the mountain, got to the peak, and it was super cool up there. It's definitely higher than Emery's Peak. I mean, it was probably like 8,000 feet, and Emery's Peak was 7,832, I think. It was beautiful up there. It was a really good view. And then we come back, and round trip, Brad and I's little excursion took about an hour, I think. And I mean, I felt bad for leaving Jonah and Hayden, but you know, it was a once in a lifetime opportunity.
We waited for like 45 minutes.
They were there for a while waiting for us to come back. Jonah and Hayden are mad at us because I mean, it was kind of a jerk thing to do. I understand, and I apologize. So did Brad.
It's not okay.
I'm sorry. I love you, Jonah. like a lot. Like mainly just for your body.
William, I'm here for the video, not your love.
Also for other things. What? You're not here for. Bye. Good luck with your stupid video. So then we get back and we start doing the rest of the Lost Mine Trail, and we're hiking up, and I think it took us about another 30 minutes to an hour.
There were so many times we thought we'd be almost there.
Yeah, we start walking along, and there's these jerks that walk by, and we're like, "Hey, we almost there?" And they're like, "Yep, pretty close." We were not pretty close. We had another 2 miles probably. Yeah, that's probably accurate. Of zigzag walking up the freaking mountain, and so we left them behind and continued up the trail and got there eventually after forever.
Yeah.
And it was incredible. It was the best view of the entire trip by far.
You won't let me down. I can feel it. You won't let me go. I can feel
The best part of it was that we didn't expect very much out of the trail, which is probably why we were so amazed when we got up there. And the peak of the mountain wasn't just like a small space at the top, you know. It didn't come to a peak and it wasn't like that little area. The top of it was vast and wide and whatnot, and you could walk across and explore and things like that. And so we did. We laid up there and took some pictures of us standing on the edge. We pulled up our shorts a little bit because we realized how white we were on our thighs, and so we pulled up our shorts to try and get those a little more tan. It didn't work. The weird thing about being up there was like the acoustics actually were really weird, because you could hear over like 150 feet away what somebody was whispering. Hayden and I were about 150, 200 feet away from Brad. Brad was like over here tanning, and Hayden and I were over here talking, and I looked over and noticed Brad through some like branches of a tree that was up there. He had his shorts pulled up, just kind of like chilling there, and you know, it was just kind of funny to see. And so I looked at Hayden and I was like, "Look at Brad," and he heard me, and I didn't say it any louder than, "Hey, look at Brad," and he goes, "What? I'm tanning." It was funny. So Brad had just finished yelling at us and whatnot, that he could hear us and everything. And we decided to test the acoustics up there, and so Hayden and I started whispering about like yay high volume. And Brad could still hear us from like 200 feet away. There's this other couple up there that gets to the top of the peak, and they're like walking around, and we're all talking and being goofballs and saying just like stupid things. It didn't really make any sense. And we realized afterwards that we were like, I wonder if they probably heard everything that we were saying and probably think we were really weird people. They're dead on if that's what they think, but we finish up at the top of the Lost Mine Trail and walk back down and head back to camp so we can pack up and leave the next morning at, I think 7 was our plan, was to leave the camp at about 7 a.m. so we could go to the other side of the park where the only showers in the entire park were located, We hadn't showered the entire time we were there, and shower and then be on our way back home by 8:30. So we're packing up our stuff and everything. And we get everything packed up, all except for our sleeping arrangements, being the tent and the cots and sleeping bags and stuff inside. Starting to fall asleep and everything. We're talking for a while, and one by one we kind of doze off, and the wind starts blowing. Now, if you recall, the tent was not set up very well at the beginning of the week. We tied it down with rocks. I mean, we had the stakes and whatnot in the ground too, but it got kind of windy a couple of nights, and so there were some extra strings that we had that we used to tie from the tent to like kind of boulders. Honestly, they're big rocks. So yeah, it got really windy the last night. Tent would start like this, and then the wind would start blowing, and it would kind of angle over like so. And Brad was sleeping like right here, and so it'd be upright, and then when the wind started to blow, it kind of fell over right on top of Brad, and he kept waking up throughout the night. Eventually, the wind was blowing so hard that it actually snapped one of the poles that was a main support for the tent, and the entire thing just fell down right on top of Brad. And so we got our sleeping bags out and everything, and we were like, this is fine. It's totally okay. We're just gonna pack up the tent, and like we'll sleep in the truck for the rest of the night, and then leave in the morning. So we're brushing our teeth and things, and Hayden's brushing his teeth, and Brad walks in and is kind of like, hey, so what are your thoughts on leaving now? At this point, it was about 3 a.m. And so that's what we did. We packed up the tent, put everything in the truck. We were very noisy. It's probably rude to a lot of the other campers. Yeah, Hayden set off the car alarm. That was not good. We had just finished putting everything in the truck, and we were all brushing our teeth, and Hayden set off the car alarm at 3 a.m. and probably woke up all the other campers at the site. So yeah, we packed up, we all got in the truck, and we headed out. We assumed that the showers were not open that early, and so we didn't go to shower. As it would turn out, they were open because they're 24-hour. We all kind of start to doze off, except for Hayden, of course, because he's driving. And occasionally you'll hear just like a thud, and you hear Hayden saying, don't do it, don't do it, don't. He did it. Boom. And that happened, it happened a lot. As it would turn out, those don't do it's were directed at bunny rabbits, and those thuds were the ones that did it. We killed like 6 bunnies on our way out of the park because, I guess they were just suicidal. They basically lived in hell. If you don't live on the mountains in Big Bend, you're living in the desert, and no one wants that. After you leave the park, it's about 30 minutes until you hit anything, because it's just like ranch on both sides. They're just like farms. And so we drive about 30 minutes, and then we come across the Border Patrol office, which, by the way, is just ridiculous because on the side going towards Mexico, there's like 50 security cameras set up just pointing in every direction. And then on the way into the United States, there's not one, but there is Border Patrol officers on that side. And so we drive up, and Hayden wakes us up because we'd fallen asleep. He tells us to get our IDs out and whatnot because the officer's probably going to ask to see some ID and make sure we're U.S. citizens and whatnot. So we do. We get out our IDs. We're ready to prove we're U.S. citizens. And we pull up, rolls down the window. The guy walks up and he goes, hey, how you guys doing? We're like, good. How are you? All right. Got a question for y'all. You all U.S. citizens? We're like, yeah. He goes, okay. Kind of looks back at the back of the truck because they had a drug sniffing dog, I guess, like a German Shepherd. He checks up on the dog, notices he's not really finding anything yet. He goes, okay. So where y'all coming from? In the Big Bend National Park. Our tent broke this morning at like 2:30, and so we left early. He goes, okay. So y'all are U.S. citizens? Like, yeah. This whole time he's staring at Jonah in the back seat, which, Jonah, come here. You see why? So the entire time he's staring at Jonah, and I mean, it's not okay, you know? It's weird. And he's like staring at him and like looking back at the dog and like looks at Jonah again. And he leans forward and he's like, he notices the dog is done. He leans forward and goes, okay, y'all, are you assistants? For like the third time. And we're like, yes. Like, we're not going to change our answer, you know? It's not like the third time he's going to, are you assistants? No. Dang it. Like, we're not going to mess up. So he lets us go and whatnot without checking any IDs. And we just kind of go on our way and get gas at that last gas station before heading back home. We got back in like 8 hours, I think. But throughout the drive, I mean, I was asleep for most of it. A lot of us fell asleep for most of it, except for Hayden. Hayden drove about the same distance that Brad did on the way back. They traded off so that Hayden could get some shut-eye. When they switched off, Brad took the wheel. We get back on the road again, and the storm comes out of nowhere. And it just starts pouring. It was funny because Hayden had just finished driving and switched off and gave it to Brad, and now Brad had to drive through the crappy weather. So yeah, we drive all the way back home, filling up at every half tank of gas. We made it back in about 8 hours, which got us back home at about 11:15, somewhere around there. And we stopped by at everybody's house and dropped everybody off and unloaded all their stuff. Brad forgot like 5 different things. We dropped him off first and he forgot like 5 different things, like some souvenirs he bought and things like that we had to keep coming back and leaving stuff on his doorstep. Then we went to Jonah's house and dropped off Jonah with all his stuff. Then Hayden took me to my house and we unloaded all my stuff, which was basically the rest of everything, because the rest was Hayden's. And that basically brought us to the conclusion of our Big Bend senior trip. Hey everybody! Ready to have a good time? We're doing the trail. And
So tell me about Alfred.
Alfred, my man. Alfred was this bird that hung around the camp like all week long, and they have signs everywhere at the camp that explain not to feed any of the animals, which I mean is a good idea because there's bears and stuff. You don't want to attract them to the campsite, and so we weren't feeding him. We didn't give him any food so that he wouldn't keep coming back. But he stuck around the entire time we were there, and the last day I decided, hey, he's been a trooper. It's been like 4 days. We haven't given him anything. We can give him some little granola. And so I popped off a piece of my granola bar. I set it on the ground and kind of crushed it up so he could get it and eat it more easily. And then I held out another piece and tried to get him to snack on it. He wasn't interested. It took 4 days for me to finally break down and give him some granola bar. And when I finally did, he showed no interest.